Hello and welcome. If this is your first time here, I'm Garth Allen. This is Racing News Now. And we're joined today by the man, the myth, the legend, ARCA PR Director, Mr. Charlie Krall. How's it going today, man?
Oh, I'm doing great, Garth. Had a wonderful weekend down in Indianapolis for the Performance Racing Industry Trade Show. Wish we had a banquet to celebrate on Saturday night. Unfortunately, again, we're kind of dealing with that pesky COVID virus. So no banquet on Saturday night, but we did. We had a great weekend down there in Indy. Saw a lot of great old friends, made some new friends, which is always fun. And just kind of taking the next couple of weeks to regroup, and we'll get ready for that pre-season practice down there at Daytona, and then we'll get ready to go racing.
So we've got a few things to discuss here. There's been a lot of ARCA news that has happened since the last time we talked. But first and foremost, let's talk about the video that went up on here a few days ago, what I called the perfect ARCA schedule. And you commented on that. Let's dissect your comment and get your thoughts on everything there. We'll start off just with the first line. You said there's a lot of assumptions in this video that just aren't correct. What do you mean by that?
Right. So it's been a couple of days since I watched this, Garth. So give me some time as I kind of refresh my memory as we go here. But one of the assumptions I think that a lot of people make is, we're going to just pick 20 races out of a hat and whatever, wherever we go is just where, there's no rhyme or reason to why we're going somewhere. And that's not necessarily true. We've got 20 races on the main ARCA Menards Series tour. I think 8 of them are super speedway races, couple road course races, couple dirt races, some, paved short track races. Some of those races we go to, again, there's a lot of parts and pieces that need to come in here. And we're trying to build value as a developmental series. So we want to give drivers and teams an opportunity to come and race at racetracks where they're going to race in the next level, whether that's truck, Xfinity Cup, whatever. So that's where you get your Daytonas, your Talladegas, your Michigans, Pocono, Kansas, when Watkins Glen, Mid-Ohio, all of a sudden you look at your schedule and there's half of them. Half of them are taken up by those types of races. Then we've got our traditional events that, we have been a part of this deal for 40, 50, 60, plus years. Salem, Toledo, DuQuoin, Springfield, and all of a sudden there's another, 7 or 8 races. Then you got a couple more left over, that kind of change from year to year. And, I know one of them that you kind of were wishing was back on the schedule was Winchester. And trust me, we wish Winchester was on the schedule too. We love going there. It's a great racetrack. It's close to home for us. It's got a lot of great history. That's a racetrack that kind of, struggles at times, getting people in the grandstands for races that aren't the Winchester 400. The Silver Crown race that they had there last year was a tremendous race, but it wasn't a full house. It had a great crowd, but it wasn't a full house. That's the kind of race that I think, they were wishing might have been a full house, to kind of help pay the bills and keep you moving. So, there's just some of these racetracks that we have a great relationship with. That's one of them. Charlie Shaw, the owner down there, has been a great partner of ours, over the years. It's just not a racetrack that I think we can go to each and every year, just for, out of financial considerations. We've been trying to build some date equity down there and run on that same weekend each and every year. And it hasn't seemed to work for anybody. So, there's no hard feelings at all. Charlie Shaw is a great guy. We worked with Bob Dillner on the promotion side down there this year. Obviously, Bob is somebody who is 100% in ARCA's corner. He was our play-by-play guy, on MAV TV last year. So sometimes it just doesn't work exactly the way everybody wants it to, and you just take a break and regroup and you try it again somewhere down the road. I have no doubt in my mind that we'll be back at Winchester at some point in the relatively near future. It's just, sometimes you just got to kind of take a year and figure things out. As far as those two dirt races are concerned, we've been going to Springfield and DuQuoin in one form or fashion since the early 1980s. That is just simply not going to change. Those two events are cornerstone events for us. Hey, there wasn't anybody who was happy with what DuQuoin was last year. Not a single person. And that includes Bob Sargent and the folks at Track Enterprises. They are the ones who were in charge of the preparation of the racing surface, and there was a lot of rain. There was the previous couple of nights there was a lot of rain, and it just makes for a tough day. It does. It makes for a tough day. And then you take into the equation that we had a light car count, and it wasn't great. It wasn't great, but it doesn't mean we're not going to go back. We're not going to take 40 years of history and flush it down the toilet because we had one bad race. There's a lot of great fans down there. It's again a cornerstone event for us, and we're just not going to let that go because of a bad weekend. I'm going to take your point into hand and say, Terre Haute would be great. Mm-hmm. Would be great. It's a great racetrack. Anybody who's ever been there, it's phenomenal. It really does. It has that old school feel to it, but it still has a lot of really great amenities for the fans who are there. It's right off the highway. There's a ton of great restaurants right out front. You're an hour away from Indianapolis, which is phenomenal. It would be a great venue to add. I don't think there's any momentum other than a few of us diehard fans who think it would be really cool to see. Track Enterprises promotes Terre Haute. We're already in constant communication with them on that event, on their events anyhow. I just don't see that as a venue that we are going to go to anytime soon. Doesn't mean it wouldn't be great, wouldn't be cool, because it would be cool. And that's I think, Garth, the one thing that, I don't have a bone to pick on your commentary there is because every one of those events that you said, hey, this would be great, they would be great. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Whether it's Rockingham or even Sandusky Speedway, it would be cool to see us race at Sandusky Speedway, but that is a racetrack that is really kind of struggling to stay afloat. I think it's been for sale for the last couple of years. I don't think there's been a lot of capital improvements done to it in recent years, and it's really just struggling to stay open. My hope would be that someone would come in and purchase it and not only keep it open, but make some of those improvements to it so it would get to a position where we could go and race there. Excuse me. Here's a real little known fact about Sandusky Speedway, and it's been around a long time. It's had a really long and rich history with open wheel super modified racing, late models back in the day. ARCA has raced there previously. We've got, I think, a couple of races there. I scored a race there back in 1982, the championship race. I was one of the team scorers for Bob Brevac, believe it or not. I still remember car number 82. But that racetrack, actually, the backstretch wall abuts to Thorsport Farm in Sandusky, Ohio. But the team owner of Thorsport Racing also owns some show horses and one of their northern farm. They've got another one down in Tennessee, but he owns the property that abuts to the backstretch wall there and is a horse farm there. So, there's a lot of racing people in that neck of the woods. That's just a property that needs some love and some TLC. It's just not quite ready for us, but hey, if they got it into a position where it was, a viable racetrack, I would say let's do it. And I mean, that's the thing. I'm never going to say, hey, I don't want to go to that racetrack. Yeah. I would never do that. As a race fan, I like to go to as many different cool racetracks as I can. And,
Oh yeah.
and honestly, back in the day when, ARCA had 2 races a year at Toledo and 2 races a year at Salem. And as much as I hated to see that one race at my home track go away, I know why it did. So we could go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Salem. We needed that one race at Salem so we could go somewhere else. And that's, I think we're at, 19 racetracks, with Kansas having, the only doubleheader, the only 2 races on their schedule. I'm okay with that. I just wish that it was, we were able to maybe discuss some of the logistics that go behind why we schedule races where we do. Some of that is for television purposes. Quite honestly, if we're going to race at Mid-Ohio, we're going to do it when the TV cameras are already there.
Yeah.
We're going to race at Daytona. We're going to do it when the TV cameras are there. It's just to try to, make things a little easier for everybody else and keep those costs down for our TV partners, and actually make it easier for our teams, and to give those teams an opportunity to race in front of a bigger audience at the racetrack. And maybe some of those Cup team owners are watching and keeping an eye on those young hot shoes like Jesse Love and Christian Eckes and Sheldon Creed, and that's what those guys are here to do. They're here to make an impression, and we're going to try to make it as easy on them as we can.
Well, you answered like my next 5 questions there with one question. I do want to circle back to Sandusky though, because one thing I mentioned in that video was Sandusky is very similar in layout to Martinsville. So
Yes.
If Sandusky's not an option, would ARCA ever consider going to Martinsville? I feel like ARCA could put on a really good product at Martinsville.
So I think we would consider it,
Mm-hmm.
but they also have to consider it.
Right.
It's a 2-way street.
Right.
Garth. So honestly, for a long time, and the record books show this. I mean, how long had it been between Xfinity races at Martinsville?
Yeah.
They've been very, very happy with their Cup truck weekends.
Right.
And last year they added an Xfinity race, which I think, they'd had a couple, since 1993. I think they had one like in 2008 when another race, got bounced off the schedule and it needed a home, and Martinsville stepped up and did it. And I think they had one maybe last year,
Mm-hmm.
and then another one in 2021. But they've been their scheduler has been very static. If they called us and said, hey, we'd be interested in having a race, would we have that discussion? Absolutely we would. But that's kind of how it works. We have to want to do it, and they want to have us, they want to have us. So I think for where we're at with our 20 races right now, we've got a pretty steady group of racetracks that have been part of that conversation. But that's not to say that a place like Martinsville or Rockingham or North Wilkesboro couldn't be a part of that conversation going forward. But again, they've got to want to have us is a key part of it.
Okay.
And honestly, and this is a very key component to our program, is contractually we owe Menards X number of races per year in their footprint.
Okay.
And that's with the main ARCA Menards Series National Tour. East and West obviously don't really have a lot of races in that footprint, but
Yeah.
Particularly out west. But with the main ARCA Tour, and I don't remember what the number is, Garth, but X amount of those races have to be in the Menards footprint. So, if let's just assume Daytona, Talladega, the races down south, Charlotte, Phoenix, Watkins Glen, those are the races outside of that footprint. So who are you going to take off out of that footprint and replace with Martinsville. So there's a lot of parts and pieces to this puzzle that all got to have to fit together to make it happen. And honestly, we really like being right there at that 20 race number. I know there have been a couple of times recently where we've been at 21, but 20 is our target number every year. So that just kind of makes it a little difficult to just add one really cool racetrack, because you need to take out. That's the question you have to ask. Yeah.
So for anyone that's not aware, when you say the Menards footprint, that's the races that are sponsored by Menards and its products that it sells, correct?
So when I say we owe Menards X amount of races within their footprint, that means so many races on our schedule. Like, I'm just going to say 12, and that may be the number, it might not be.
Okay.
But let's say 12 races on the ARCA Menards series schedule have to be where there are Menards stores.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And when I say their footprint, they have to match that geographic footprint. So Kansas, there's a Menards store right across the street from Kansas Speedway. Toledo, there's a Menards store right across from Toledo. Michigan is in that Menards footprint. Berlin is in that Menards footprint. Salem, Indianapolis Raceway Park, and hey, how great is it to be able to call it IRP again?
I've been calling it IRP this whole time, but that's just me.
But so those are the races. Iowa would be in that footprint, and even Elko is in that footprint. Milwaukee is in that footprint. So we owe them, and I'm just throwing a number out there and saying it's 12, but we do owe them X amount of races a year in their geographic footprint. So, again, there's that limits the number outside of that footprint. So we have to kind of be very judicious where we're going to take those races. But that's not to say if Martinsville called us and said, hey, we'd love to have one of your events down here, we would be very, very diligent in having that conversation with them for sure.
Okay. Okay, we're back with some technical difficulties. My internet went out, so now we're recording on Charlie's end to finish this, but gotta love technology. So to wrap up the perfect schedule part of this, you mentioned in your comment that while the ARCA schedule may not be perfect, you do really like where it is right now, but I'm sure you have a wish list of tracks you would like to see on the ARCA schedule. What are a few of those?
So before I dive into that, when I say it's not perfect, the only reason it's not perfect is there are racetracks out there. I really like the 19 racetracks that we're going to. I just wish that we had the ability to go to the other ones. The number one, I think, on my list would be Flat Rock Speedway. That's a racetrack that ARCA raced at for 40 plus years back in the 50s through the early 2000s. And, when our series really started rocking and rolling back in the late 90s and early 2000s, Ron Drager said, I've got 4 races at my 2 racetracks, and, it's probably not fair to me to have 20% of the schedule at my 2 racetracks. So, we've taken those 2 events at Flat Rock and have moved them around. And I just wish that we had a way that we could keep going back there. I love Flat Rock Speedway. It's one of my home racetracks, and I'm a bull ring guy. I love tight, close quarters racing, and that would be a great place for it. I wish we could go to Anderson Speedway, home of the Little 500. The ARCA CRA Super Series runs there as well. I wish there was a way we could go there. I think, Road America is another one that I wish we could go to. I had a great time up there, the two races we raced up there. I do. I wish you could find a place for all of those races, whether they're dirt tracks, road courses, paved short tracks. I'd love to find a way to get the ARCA Menards series down to New Smyrna Speedway, and have a national tour ARCA Menards series race down there, in addition to the East Series race that we have down there. So. That's the other reason I say it's not perfect. It's not because one of the racetracks that's on the schedule is a garbage racetrack. That's not true at all. I think we've got 19 really, really great racetracks. I'm just, as a fan, I do. I wish that there was a way that we could go to some of these really cool other racetracks that are out there. But, hey, while we're living in fantasy world, we'll just throw them all out there, right?
Right. Well, and I like that there's a little bit of overlap there with some of the tracks that I stuck on the schedule too. So makes me feel a little less crazy with some of the things that I put on there too.
Right. And I will tell you, Garth, you're not crazy. There's a lot of really cool racetracks out there. There are. It's just when you're limited to 20 races a year, and that's our magic number. It just means you're not going to be able to get to them all. And the key to it is, they need to want us. We have to have an opening in the schedule. And then you start fitting in all of that other stuff, like, the Menards, geographic footprint, TV considerations, and many, many other things that go into it as well. But yeah, that is probably the hardest thing that we as a sanctioning body have to do each and every year is put that schedule together. We put more time into it, more effort into it than just about anything else. And we also understand it's the one thing that we're probably going to get criticized for. Why are you going back to this racetrack? Why aren't you going to that racetrack? Why'd you take that track off? Why is these kinds of things? But there's a lot that goes into it, and I appreciate you letting me come on here and trying to explain a little bit on what some of those things are. And it's a challenge, but yeah, I think we got a pretty good schedule for 2021. And, we talked a little bit about that East Series, and we won't get into it too much in this one. We can maybe do it somewhere down the road, but, that's on our radar too, Garth. We're not happy with 7 races. We're not happy with the car count that we had last year. That is a series that has a long history. Dates back to 1987. It's important to us that series thrives and grows and gets back to where it once was. It's not going to be easy. We know that. We've worked on it pretty hard here for the last couple of years. We do. We want to get it back to where it once was, and that series has a lot of great fans all up and down the East Coast, and they deserve to have that series to continue on and to be a part of their racing lives, so to speak. So, we're aware of it. We're not giving up, man. We're learning the East and the West. We're kind of learning as we go. They've got, the West Series is going to run its 1,000th race. I believe it's scheduled for Evergreen Speedway later on in the summer. They've got 1,000 races in their history, and we've been a part of it for 20. Yeah. 20 of those races have been under our sanction. So, we're trying to figure out on the fly here how those series have operated in the past. And, there's been a lot of really great things. There's been some things that have been a challenge, and, we're trying. We're not going to give up, and, we want to make people happy with them. We don't want to, we don't want people to be frustrated, when they look at that series or the entry lists or anything. We want them to be excited, and, we know we've got some work to do, but we're doing it. And we hope, we'll take the heat when it's warranted. We're not going to ever sit there and say, hey, you can't criticize. We understand that's part of the deal. We hope you give us a little time and space to get it back where we need to get it. So
definitely. Well, I'm glad you brought up the East Series. Before we wrap up here, we haven't gotten a chance to talk about the new streaming deal for East and West this year with Flow Racing. For anyone that may not be familiar with the details on that, walk us through all the details for that.
So the live stream is going to move from Track Pass on NBC Sports Gold. It'll now be Track Pass on Flow Racing. You can subscribe at flowsports.com. It's $150 a year. I know that's going to not make some people happy, but I will tell you, you're not just getting 20 ARCA East and West races. Okay. So you're going to get ARCA Menard Series races live on MAV TV. Those races will also be available on Flow Racing. You will get the entire ARCA West, entire ARCA East. You will get NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. You will get NASCAR home tracks. So that's a lot of content right there. In addition to that, you're going to get the Chili Bowl, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and most of Saturday. So that right there is $150 value. You'll get every race at Eldora Speedway other than the World of Outlaws races. You will get the entire United States Auto Club schedule for the Silver Crown Sprint Cars and Midgets. You will get the All-Star Circuit of Champions. You will get dozens of local tracks all across the country. I mean, there literally will be more racing than you can watch on Flow Racing. We're really happy to be a part of it. The ARCA Menards East and West races that are on Flow, you can still see those on a delayed basis on USA Network. So, you know, if you miss the live stream, you can still watch them on USA. It's a great deal. I know that price point is going to turn some people off, and there's really not much we can do about that. But what you're going to get for that $150 is so much more. And like I said, we're happy to be a part of it. The Flow Racing does a tremendous job. They're a great partner for all of the series that they have partnered with in years past, and we're happy to be aboard.
So let's talk about that price point a little bit, because that probably is a little steep, especially to the people that were on the NASCAR only package on Track Pass for, what was it, $2.99 a month?
Right.
Is there going to be anything for those people that don't necessarily want the rest of the stuff, but they just want the NASCAR stuff?
Well, I wish that I could give you some good news on that. I mean, I personally floated that idea. I said, hey, how about, I don't know if that's going to go anywhere or not. I wouldn't get too attached to that idea maybe right here off the start, but you never know what's going to happen down the road. What I'm going to tell you, just as a race fan, I have been a subscriber of Flow Racing for the last 4 or 5 years. It is a tremendous value to me. There isn't but maybe a handful of nights all summer long that there wasn't a live race on. You know, if I wanted to sit down on a Wednesday night and see a race from some random racetrack somewhere in Nebraska, boom, I could, you know, it was there.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's, you know, USAC stuff or all-star stuff, which I'm a big fan of anyhow, it was all there. And now for us to be a part of it too, I think it's going to be really cool. I am conscious of that price point. I know that there were some people that the $30 year-long subscription on NBC Sports Gold was a little steep. So, you know, we've heard, we understand. We're not totally unsympathetic about it. It's just something that us as a sanctioning body, it's kind of out of our hands at this point. But you know, you get enough people out there talking about it, Garth, and maybe you can make something happen. So, but like I said, for what you're getting, the $150 to me, it's the best $150 I spend all year long.
Okay, well there you have it. Your PSA from Charlie Krall for the day on why to buy Flow Racing. Charlie, I think that's all I got for you today. I know you gotta get going. You got other things you gotta do today.
Yeah, man, that crazy Italian lady I'm married to is expecting me for lunch, so I got a bolt. She'll have my head on a platter if I don't make it on time.
She's just expecting so much from you.
Worse things.
So,
There's worse things.
Well, yeah, that's true. All right. Well, Charlie, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for having this conversation and clearing up some things. And we'll definitely have you back on at some point in the future when we got things to talk about.
You got it, man. Let's preview the season coming up here in February. All right.
Definitely. We will do that.
Okay, thanks for having me on. Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy holidays. And Garth, thanks for all you do for us, buddy.